Plans are in the works for the Kiwis to meet Tonga next year, while the New Zealand Rugby League is still yet to make a final decision on its ongoing involvement in the Denver Test. The future of the international game became clearer over the weekend, following a meeting in Singapore where the board of the RLIF, Test football's governing body, agreed to a long-term calendar. Key elements of the schedule were announced Monday and, from a Kiwis perspective, they include World Cups in 2021 and 2025, annual tests between against the Kangaroos, tours to the UK this year and 2022 and British Lions tours to the Southern Hemisphere, 2019 and 2024. The RLIF board also ensured there was a platform for other countries to compete against top-tier nations, and there remains room for bilateral tests to be added to the schedule, which is set to be finalised in November. The decision by the NZRL to pursue a match against England in the US ahead of a high-profile rematch against Tonga in June was met with general surprise given the popularity of Jason Taumalolo and co. at last year's World Cup. But NZRL Chief Executive Greg Peters, who was only appointed to the role in May, said there was a strong push to host a test against Tonga next year, not to the extent that it's confirmed, but it's something we'll certainly be working for to play Tonga in 2019, Peters told Stuff after returning from Singapore. At this point there is only room for the match to take place at the end of the season, but it could potentially be held in June depending on the fate of the Denver Test. The NZRL and England signed a 3-year agreement with promoters More Sports to take games to the US. However, that is subject to a review into last month's match at Mile High Stadium. Peters revealed they have yet to receive the full payment from the promoters, who reportedly lost money on the match but were working with More Sports to review the outstanding amount. NRL clubs were strongly opposed to the match going ahead due to player welfare concerns, and RLIF Chief Executive Nigel Wood is set to lead a review into the criteria for sanctioning tests. Peters welcomed the move, which will seek input from the Rugby League Players Association, NRL and Super League clubs as well as national organisations. I think there's a gap in international rugby league, where we probably haven't had the correct process that will allow everyone to be engaged through the sanctioning process, he said. The NRL has well-publicised views on what happened in Denver. They're conducting their own review with clubs. We've reached out to clubs as well for feedback directly, so that's why it needs to be factored into the mix for 2019. We have not locked it in, but we do have a 3-year commercial agreement that's in place. And the building blocks of this calendar allows us to be able to play that game. Peters confirmed the Kiwis would have a big involvement in next year's proposed Lions tour to the Southern Hemisphere. He also has an eye on 2020 in preparation for the World Cup the following year, and is hopeful of securing tests against the Kangaroos prior to their tour of the UK and Pacific nations. We need a solid program in the back end of 2020 to solidify the group that Michael Maguire's bringing together over the next couple of years, Peters said. So we'll be looking for strong fixtures in the Southern Hemisphere. Key elements of the International Rugby League calendar: Rugby League World Cup in 2021 and 2025, Kangaroos tour to UK in 2020, Kiwis tour to UK in 2018 and 2022, Lions tour to Southern Hemisphere in 2019 and 2024, Nines World Cup in 2019 and 2023-2019 Championships for the Pacific Nations in a mid and end of season format, 2018 European Championship, and then at 2-year intervals, 2018 Australia v New Zealand Test, annually to 2022-2020 New Zealand fixtures in the Southern Hemisphere. Stuff promoted stories recommended by